Okay. Uh, so part three of this, what I want to do is to take you through and walk you through this code. Okay. And what I mean by that, when I say debug the code, I hope you guys by now are starting to use this debugger tool. The simplicity of it is unmatched, and the amount of time it saves you is unmatched also. And it's also unmatched in regards to learning a little bit about programming, and it gives you the ability to walk through a program, make sure you understand it. This is one that I think you should actually do that with. Meaning, so if I sit back and let's go ahead and go right here, and I will go ahead and, whoops, I want to execute, I'm going to, oh, there we go, we'll execute it now. And we'll come here and we'll press display students. It comes right to here. And again, what you're going to see is it's going to go to that function in my standard module, okay? And so function F11, there it is. It's in my standard module. See how it's going through here? And it's going to go in and it's going to try and connect. It's going to use my OLEDB connection. That's one of the classes there in the OLDB list. It's going to take my connection string. If I actually hover over it, you can see the connection string pop up there at the bottom. See it right there? DMS College and so on. And it is going to try and open it. That's what this open is going to do. If everything is good, it's going to return a true. Okay, it didn't catch anything. It's going to return that BLN, that Boolean result, and it's going to be true. This asks the question if it's false. Well, it's actually coming back as true. So it should bypass that and go right to my end if. You see that? Okay, let's go up here a little bit higher. Now it's sitting here on my select. Okay, and then what my select statement, my str, my string I should say, now looks like that select statement. Okay, we will work quite a bit with these select statements. This might be a little bit tedious work when we get into some more complex joins and so on. That's probably going to be the most tedious part of all of this. Nothing hard, a little tedious because you got to make sure the string looks correct. And I'll give you some tools to help you ensure that it's correct before you ever execute it. Okay. If that makes sense, because we're going to put some parameters and so on into these strings, and you got to concatenate them in there. So we just want to make sure everything looks good when we get there. But right now, we'll keep it simple. All right. So in this case here, it's going to execute that command right here. Okay. And it's going to execute the reader. So as soon as I get done here, we now have this DR source table. If you see what I did here, if I actually hit this, it says it has rows, it has the field count, and so on in there. Okay, so it gives you a little bit of feedback if you look at it. What it's going to do is come down here, and it's going to read. If there is something in there, it's going to go ahead and read this. And as you actually see, the first name, let's see, there it is right there. I'm going to hover over DR source table, you see James. Right here, if I come down here, after I execute this, we should see Jones and so on. So it's actually looping through the columns in that first row. Then it's going to go to the next one. This one right here was Sally. See how that works? See it working? It's looping through. Okay? And we're going through one more time, and we are on land. I think that's our last one. It's going to go up here. It's going to try to read again. Land was our last row in that result set, and it's going to go to the end while, and here it's going to close. Watch it close. It's going to go to that closed database connection, which is a function, once again, over in my standard module. Okay? And it will now go ahead through that and return a good result set. Everything is good, and it's done. And there you go. I hope that helped a little bit. Pretty simple stuff. But so this is kind of how it works. It's kind of, bring this all back together again one more time. So where are we? As I told you before, we started off with how do we connect to our database? Well, you got to utilize tools that each language gives us. In VB.NET, we're going to use the OLEDB. It's not overly important that you completely understand each one of these classes. If you want to go study it, I will give you links and resources that allow you to go do so. But for the most part, it's really just cut and paste and following this. A lot of this is cut and paste. You don't need to change anything outside of the actual query and then what you're going to do with it when you get done with it. Those are the things you're going to change. I also provided you a module, a standard module that you can actually utilize from as a multiple form type project that actually has everything in it you need to open and close the database and where you're going to place your database string, okay, and so on. So a connection string, I should say. All right. The only thing you're going to change in your connection string to get started with all of this will be the database name. Okay, so for your assignment, whatever database you're instructed to use, that's what you're going to change here. Everything else should remain the same. You might say, well, Bob, I want to know more about this connection string. We'll get to that as you continue on with this course and continue on with this curriculum. But for the most part, let's keep it simple right now. And my hope is that your first assignment, you're going to go out, replicate this, and get everything working, okay? Once again, if we sit back and I'm going to come back for 1 second since this is kind of a short video. I want to spend 1 more second on this and show you what happens if you run into an error. So let's get back to here. And if I put that STRR here, okay, let's watch what happens in this case. So if I sit back and rerun this again, nope, I don't know if I put my, hold on for a second, I'm sorry. I did not. So let's get back to, I'll tell you what, I'm going to bypass the opening piece and we'll just come right down to here, okay? So we don't have to go back and forth. So I'm going to go ahead and display students. And then here we are right here. So we come in here. Whoops, I hit the wrong one. Sorry. F, there we go. There you go. So now we come in here. It's going to execute the reader. It's going to go through here. Let's bring this up a little bit. It's adding that. It's going to come. But as soon as I hit this one right here, see what's going to happen. And you might have to do this a couple times to really capture where you're erroring out at, okay? But it's going to fall right to this catch exception. Do you see that? Okay. If you do it real quickly, you might not recognize what line it did. So you may need to go take it slowly as you go through it. So if the first time you do it and you don't have the debugger on and you get an exception, like this little guy right here, make sure you go back, put the debugger on, and walk through it step by step. And then try to recognize the line in which it actually went to the exception, and it will tell you where the error is at. Will you guys get this? I'm sure somebody's going to. Somebody's on a fat finger and misspell something that's not in the database. And that's okay. I just learned how to fix it. We're not perfect human beings, so that's allowed to make a mistake. You just got to know how to fix it and go from there, okay? If, let's just say you come up here, and what's something else people do? Maybe we sit back and we've put 2 S's here, okay? If we did that, and we said display students, and we hit F111. It's going to put it in here. Look what happens as soon as I execute the reader. It's going to come down here, and it's going to give me an error message saying TSS students is an invalid object. Well, what that's saying is that's not a name of a table in the database that we're connected to. Okay? It's TS students, correct? Again, is this something that you could possibly do? Of course it is. Just read the error, be patient, there's something wrong, okay? I'll usually get, hey Bob, this is not working. No, it is something you did wrong, and it's usually you didn't name something over in the code side that's named over in the programming side. If we did something like this, let's go back over here, and if I put college is right here versus college, okay, let's see what happens with this one. And I hit display students. Cannot open database DBMS colleges. Why? Because there is no such thing over in my SQL Server. I called it college, not colleges. Everything must be exact. Okay? So those are 3 little error messages I think, people will get, especially getting started with all this. And pretty easy to fix. Utilize debugging tools to help you, and I think you'll be perfectly fine. All right? So with that, I want you to try. That'll be the next step.